Hey there, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to my space. So, did a lot of sanding last night. Here's what I did. I have the body, hold on, let me put my my little gloves on so I don't start putting, I want to keep at this point, you know, after sanding, I want to keep the oils off the body. I don't want the oils from my skin, you know, like my hands or whatever, getting onto the wood. So here we go. Once again, this beautiful marvel of a guitar body. Black Limba Carino. Look at this design on the back. It's like it was designed by nature. It's incredible. Beautiful work by the seller on eBay. And I'll link something to his store because he's got a couple of nice looking. He's got a couple of a completed guitar and another Carina body. I think it's a Telly. It looks fantastic. But this one's just extra special. So anyway, here's what I did. I had my maple sanding block, which is just a flat edge. I took my 120 paper. So I had my 120 paper like so. I took this and I, straight across on all the flat surfaces only. So I didn't get into the contours, didn't get into the sides, didn't get into the insides of the horns, just strictly, the flat going across here, turning it over, same thing, and there's not tons of flat space on a Strat. So after doing that, then I basically would take it by hand and go over all the contoured areas, same thing over here. Then I might take a smaller piece and with the grain, and what I figured out, the grain was going this way and through, and then on this way, the other way coming back in was going with the grain. So I just hand contoured all through there. Being aware of my edges with the Strat, it's kind of rounded, but I wanted the right amount of rounding. Just little things you can do to finish it. I wanted this rounding right here. I love the way this rounding right here looks, and I wanted that to be really smooth and symmetrical and even on both sides. I think that occurred, and it feels really good. Sanded it down to 320. So next, after the 120, went to 220. Same idea. Took a 220 piece. Straight across, straight up and down. In one direction though. Straight up, always just straight across, one direction. Then I took and also on this step, I took a little piece like this, and that's where you can get into here, and you can do this kind of stuff, where you're sanding here, and then also on these edges, you can hold your finger down and come up, get a nice clean edge going off there, keeping in mind that some of this is going to be covered up with a pick guard because I'm just using, it's a standard front route, so it'll have like a black or white, probably a black pick guard right here, 8 screw vintage, hopefully 1 ply. Like the way those sound. So anyway, acoustically, when you're playing at home, just has more openness. So anyway, now the guitar is clean. After I did all that, after I got down to 320, did all these steps with 320, did a lot of fine sanding in the grooves and then the contours on the sides. Got my sanding block out for a little bit of 400 finishing. I mean, this is basically so worn out that it wasn't doing any real sanding. I just used it to kind of smooth the body off, Did that all the way around. That feels really nice on the sides too. You can really get a nice feel going here and start to expose some of this beautiful figuring. Incredible. And the mineral deposits and everything. So it's basically sitting at 320. Like I said, I did a little bit of buff polishing with this 400 just to smooth it, but it was very little actual paper. Didn't really sand it. There wasn't like anything coming off. And after that, I took the denatured alcohol and wiped the whole body down, which raises the grain. And then after that, you come across with like some kind of Scotch-Brite, something that has like a little rough, or even just a towel, like an old towel. But interestingly, when I stained this mahogany Flying V, and I did the last bit of staining and put the alcohol on and raised the grain, it really stood up. I mean, it was like stubble, you know, and so you had to really whack it down, make sure it was nice and smooth. I did it a couple times. This guitar, I felt like a little bit of like dust maybe, and it just was gone. It's like it really, the Limba wood has some amazing working qualities. I've never seen a piece of wood that sands this beautifully. It didn't scratch. I was super careful because I didn't want to scratch it up, and I had some issues sanding this as the first guitar, you know, from the beginning point, and so I learned a lot, and I tried to apply what I learned here, and mainly it's just go slow and don't try to do it too fast, and I don't like using any kind of like sander. I'm not in a hurry. You know, if I was working at a guitar shop or factory and I had to churn out bodies, you know, I'd have my electric sander, but this is just my one little project. So I just take it nice and slow with the block by hand, cut the strips, you know, different sizes to sort of fit the contours. So all the sanding is done. The guitar is clean, fairly dust free. I'll wipe it down, you know, before I put the shellac on. But now we're going to just mix up the shellac, and I went over to StuMac. They have a really amazing tutorial that Dan Arrowwine did when he was putting some shellac on a little ukulele for a granddaughter, and he does a step-by-step tutorial. And I've done shellac before. I shellacked this neck, which is what made me want to do a guitar in it, because it just turned out amazingly well. It's an amazing feel. You can get it down to like satin level, you know, with some steel wool. After you're done, you can just kind of go over it. And if you ever have a problem with shellac, if you ever had like something you had to fix, all you have to do is sand it a little, put some new shellac on it, let it sit, you know, a couple coats, sanding in between, and it blends back in with itself, which is amazing. Most finishes, that's it. You got to start over if you have a big blemish, but not with shellac. It'll bind to itself. Some kind of bonding, a chemical bonding occurs, and it binds to itself, which is amazing. Okay, so at this point I'll probably put my gloves on, but I wanted to build the little polishing pad. I just used rags, and you can see I cut like I don't know, this is like maybe 10 inches by 6 inches, something like that, rag. And then what I'm going to do, put it here. I've got some cotton balls over here, and I'm just following along with the title of this is how to French polish for a fast finish. How to French polish for a fast finish without spraying. Alliteration. Okay, so cotton balls. So we've got this here. I'm gonna set it down. Fill it up with these cotton balls here. I don't know, like a small handful. About right there. That feels about right. Maybe one more. So I'm going to use, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's make it 8 of them. That looks like a symmetrical pile. And it just seems like I'm starting to see how this works. And it's really cool. Okay, so then we're going to come around it like this. Kind of clamp it up here. Clamp it up there. And sort of draw it together to where it ends up looking like this. It's like a polishing pad. Yeah, you're just making a polishing pad. Very cool. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, now I'm going to use this as my little dabber, so you can kind of dab out, make sure you don't have too much shellac. Okay, so that's going to go there, so we don't mess it up and leave it on the floor and whatnot. I'll put the rest of this over here. I'm going to shut up my bag, seal my bag up. Get this paper out of the way, get these gloves ready. These gloves are kind of thick, so once I put them on, I may just try to not use them. We'll go over there. Okay, now, here's my little trick. I did another video once about shellacking, and I didn't actually do any shellacking because when I got the guitar there, I decided that the neck was really nice. It was like probably urethane, but it was a very satin finish on a Squire. So I didn't do it in the video, I just showed you how I would have done it. And what I did in that video is I made this bowl. Okay, so we have our denatured alcohol here, screwdriver, and here's my bowl. Now I don't know if you can see in here, but I put one mark where I'll fill up the alcohol, another mark where I'll fill up the shellac. So we have basically a 50-50 mix, maybe not exact, but pretty close enough. And I found that it doesn't really have to be super precise, very forgiving stuff. Okay, so I'm going to put this here to just protect the floor. I'll take a little alcohol first. I don't know why exactly, but I'm going to dump it in. It's about the fill line. Okay. That was a dumb idea. I'll tell you why. Because, don't even ask. Alright, stand there. Yeah, stand there. Okay, so I've got my alcohol in there. I was thinking the alcohol would eat up the Sharpie marks and I'd have to dump it out, but I did this a long time ago. They're holding solid, it's not taking it away. Good. Okay, so now I'm going to open up the shellac. This will probably make a big mess. Actually, before I open it, shake it up. Here's my little stirring stick. Here's a little wiping rag. Okay. Let's open this back up again. Being careful not to drop anything inside of it. I tried to blow off all the dust around the edges because this was sitting in kind of a basement area where there's dust around, but kept it in good, cool condition. Likes to stay cool. Oh, it looks good. Okay, so now we're going to pour the shellac in. No real special method, which I probably should have thought this through a little better. I'll put this here. That looks about right. Good old shellac. Now tomorrow, got to do a few coats of this. Tomorrow I'll add olive oil into the game. We'll have some virgin olive oil. That every once in a while we'll just kind of dab this on so it doesn't stick to the shellac that's already on the finish of the guitar. Right now we don't have to worry about that because the shellac hasn't started, being on the guitar yet. In other words, we don't have a coat yet. So no worries there. So the shellac is over here. I'm going to put the cap down on this so that I don't kick it over, which I'm known to do. And as you can see, we have our mixture here. It's in the bowl. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I'm going to just kind of swirl it around. Okay, preparing the wood. The wood should be scraped, sanded smooth and clean, down to 320 grit. Wood with open grain like mahogany should be grain filled. I'm not filling the grain on this. I didn't fill the grain on this one, and it's kind of the thing I like to do. I just like the natural state, and I'm not going to paint it or even stain it. This is it, and I like the way it looks. I like the little holes. couple of them have like little, just tiny fillings, but nothing major. And so I like that. That's the way I'm gonna keep it. Fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to start by just doing what he says and just doing the top. We have our little pad. So it says fold and twist the corners tight around the cotton to create the pad. Soak up some shellac and blot it on the paper so the pad isn't too wet. That's a good idea. Let me get a piece of paper. Okay, I just took a piece of paper and just folded it up, you know, like in four. I'm going to set it right here next to this so that when I blot the shellac onto the applicator pad, I could then blot the pad onto the piece of paper. And just, you know, take that first, I guess just so you get a lighter first exposure to the wood. Okay, so we've got a nice polishing pad. Holding it together. I'm going to dip it in the shellac. Good. Now I'm going to blot it on the paper. You can see it left something behind. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, let's start polishing. Lay down the first coats with long straight coats. Be generous with the shellac until it stops soaking in the wood and starts to build on itself. So I'm going to go with the grain like I did when I sanded. One last wipe down. I'm going to go with the grain and just bring it towards me. And let me get the flashlight here. Yes, beautiful. It's a familiar thing. I want to make sure I don't go too far to the edge. Don't want to drip. So what I'll do is come up and meet it so there's no dripping. Oh, it's so nice. It's looking really good already. It's just very exciting to see it come together. Whenever I put shellac on a finish, it just feels like it was made to go on there. I can't describe it actually exactly, but it just feels so right. Not everything's like that. Some of the things I've tried before, like poly, felt, I don't know, it just like felt like super glue or something, like there was a time limit with it, and if you made a mistake, it was very noticeable, you know. So I think that's just quite brilliant, and I really do. Alright, so we're going to do this 3 to 4 times. I'm sorry. Be generous with the shellac until it stops soaking into the wood and starts to build on itself. I don't think we're to that point yet, so I'm going to do it again. Dipping in, squeezing it just kind of a little, blot, back at the wood. And I like to have light like this on just because I feel like it really exposes the reality of what's going on better than other methods, than not having, you know, light on it. It just seems to help you see what's really going on. So I don't have any like major technique here, except that I'm just going in long straight lines, and I'm really, really appreciative of Dan's advice with this. This whole thing is really cool. The time I did shellac on the neck, I just used a rag. It was fine, worked fine, but this is cool. I'm just making sure I don't have any runs on these edges, because I'm going to do the other side. I'm going to clamp it, flip it over, you'll see when I get to that point. I'm just making sure there's no weirdness like going over the edge. And it looks really good. Wow, wow, wow. I love it. I'm going to start on this side. I've been favoring that right side. The right side from the top. Do the same thing here. No runs, please. And of course, you don't have to worry about getting the perfect job in the space where the pickguard sits, but I'm still going to treat that. Okay, I think we've reached maximum saturation already. I can just see that it's sort of sitting there now and not going anywhere. Whereas before, it was still thirsty. I guess that's the key. Once it stops looking thirsty, you just back off. And I think we've reached that point here. It is not looking as thirsty. Okay, so now, and it says, repeat this process 3 or 4 times with at least an hour drying time between applications. It's 2 o'clock right now in the afternoon, so I'm going to go till 3 on this side. I'll start back on this side at 3. Now what I'm going to do to get the other side happening is I'm going to take my trusty, I had it over here and I moved it. There it is. And this is called a Jorgensen vice grip. Some kind of fancy vice grip I found in a fancy wood shop once, long before I was interested in doing anything with wood. I just needed it for some dumb reason. And it was really expensive, and I was in town in Atlanta and I didn't want to have to go anywhere else, so I just bought it. But now I'm really glad I've had it because I've used it in so many guitar projects, and it's just it's a bit of piece of class for starters, and then it just works great. So anyway, what I do here, I'm going to see if this works. I did it with my Les Paul. I mean my Flying V. I'm going to just kind of get in here a little bit and just clamp this down. Okay, so for the back of the body and for the sides, I put it in my nice little vise, and I'm going to repeat the same process going around the back.